Hey, welcome back to another episode of Chad's Beer Reviews. We are going through the entire BJCP style guidelines, beginning with 1A American Light Lager, and we're going to use one of the big examples, most popular, Coors Light. I mean, make all the jokes you want, but I wanted to review one of the mainstream light beers, and I didn't want to do a Bud or a Miller since they merged. So Coors is actually not part of that whole merger. So yeah, so let's get right into the specs here. It's on page 15 of the PDF. American Light Lager overall impression: highly carbonated, very light-bodied, nearly flavorless lager, designed to be consumed very cold, very refreshing and thirst quenching. So it's basically saying, yeah, it's not supposed to be super flavorful. All you craft beer enthusiasts out there. Aroma: low to no malt aroma, though it can be perceived as grainy, sweet, or corn-like if present. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely like a light and kind of lightly sweet corn cereal presence here. You know, kind of smells like cornflakes or some kind of cereal like in that kind of range, but not sugary, not like overly sweet or anything. Hop aroma is light to none with a spicier floral hop character if present. Yeah, I really don't get much in the way of hops. I mean, these beers, they're not meant to be. I mean, they throw hops in there just so they can really call it beer, basically. I mean, maybe like a tiny bit of peppery or spicy hops, but it's quite low. Otherwise, I mean, the fermentation's pretty clean. I don't really get green apple or not cooked corn. So let's see what they say on that. While a clean fermentation character is desirable, a light amount of yeast character, particularly a light apple fruitiness, which would be acetaldehyde, is not a fault. Light DMS is not a fault. I don't get either of those, so it's basically banging on all cylinders as far as the aroma category goes. So how are we gonna rate this? Well, it's pretty much right there for everything. So I'm going to go pretty high on aroma, 10 out of 12. I think that's fair. So, moving on to appearance. Very pale straw to pale yellow color. White, frothy head seldom persists. I mean, you can see for yourself. Even when I poured it, even if I swig it up, not much. That's not a fault. As far as the color, I mean, obviously, on camera, I'm sure it's like a pale yellow or gold. Got this BJCP color guide card when I got my certification. I mean, I'd put it at about a 1 or a 2. Very clear. So yeah, I mean, it's there for appearance. I'm going to go 3 out of 3 on appearance. Flavor. Relatively neutral palate with a crisp and dry finish and low to very low grainy or corn-like flavor that might be perceived as sweetness due to low bitterness. Well, let me see. Cheers. Okay. Yeah, I mean, as I was saying with the aroma, it's kind of got a corn cereal kind of taste. So it's lightly sweet. Kind of reminds me of like cornflake cereal or something like that. There is like a general, just kind of generic base malt presence. Again, it's not particularly sweet, but it's there. And a lot of that, I mean, it's just because they use a lot of water to make sure that the beer isn't like too intensely flavored. So yeah, and it's not supposed to be. So yeah, light kind of corn sweetness, a little bit of barley in there. I mean, I think I have a pretty sensitive palate by now, but even I'm not really getting any hops on this. I mean, like there's like the tiny, faintest little bit of pepper or spice, some kind of like noble hop in there, or like maybe an American clone equivalent. Let's see what they say here. Hop flavor ranges from none to low levels and can have a floral, spicy, or herbal quality, although rarely strong enough to detect. So that's probably why I wasn't getting it. Low to very low hop bitterness. I agree with that. It's very low bitter. I mean, there's a little bit in there. In fact, a lot of that bitterness might actually be just the actual carbonation. Balance may vary from slightly malty to slightly bitter, but is relatively close to even. I would agree with that. It's maybe more malty than it is bitter, but yeah, pretty close to even. High levels of carbonation may accentuate the crispness of the dry finish. Clean lager fermentation character. I agree with pretty much all those points. So, even though like this isn't a particularly well perceived beer, I mean, for this style, I mean it's pretty much right there. I'm gonna go I'm gonna go 17 out of 20. I mean, say what you want about it. I mean, like I don't get things that aren't supposed to be there, and I do get things that are supposed to be there. So I mean, 17 sounds really high, and it is, but you know, it's what it's supposed to be. Let's move on to mouthfeel. Very light, sometimes watery body, highly carbonated with slight carbonic bite on the tongue. I mean, it kind of looks a little bit more calm to look at, but to drink it, yeah, it's light bodied. It's not super thin and papery, and it definitely loses its carbonation quickly. Like when I first poured, you know, when you open the can and pour it, I mean, it's just like champagne effervescence. Then it kind of calms down. But yeah, I mean, I would say it's I put it at I'd say light body. I don't think I'd say very high carbonation, but I'd say high carbonation, slight carbonic bite, maybe slight carbonic bite when I first, you know, popped the cap and poured it. But otherwise, yeah, it's right there. So I think that's a perfect 5 out of 5. You know, pretty sessionable, 4.2 ABV too. In fact, the stats say it should be 2.8 to 4.2. So yeah, it's within range. Yeah, so I mean, as far as all the stats, it's doing everything that's supposed to be for the style. And I know it sounds like I rated this really high, which I did, but like, in fact, I'm just gonna keep going here for overall impression. I'm gonna say 9 out of 10. It's not the style that I prefer to drink, but it's a classic example of the light macro style. Oops, you know what I mean. All right, so Coors Light total score 44 out of 50. Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that I love this beer. In fact, when I'm gonna do these reviews this way, I'm kind of like give it like 2 ratings, like my own personal preference rating and like BJCP rating. So like my own personal preference, like this is about a 3 or a 4. But as far as 2 spec BJCP specs, I'm gonna say 44 out of 50, 9 out of 10. It's a classic example of style. There's really nothing particularly wrong with it. So yeah, I mean, it sounds like I'm raving about this beer. I'm not. I'm just like saying it's the style. Which is the whole point of these BJCP style guidelines, and actually the whole point of the BJCP rating system to begin with. It's like how close is your beer to what the style is, and then you can get into this whole philosophical debate about this je ne sais quoi quality of like what a style should be, and like what you know a style really tastes like, and things like that. But yeah, okay, I'm rambling here, so thanks for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Cheers.
Somebody brewed it, Chad just reviewed it. Thanks for watching Chad's Beer Reviews. Trust me, the next episode will be a lot better.